Flosstube and Instagram friends. My name's Kim, and this is my very first Flosstube video. I've been watching Flosstube for a number of years, and I've made some really wonderful friends through commenting on your comments, both on Flosstube and then also on Instagram. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with a little whip parade, and that way you can see what I like to stitch on. Maybe you'll find something that you're also currently stitching or would like to stitch or would like to just add to your stash. We all know how that goes. I know I've fallen prey to that many a time. Thank you guys all very much for that. So let me just show you. This was a recent finish. I think I just finished this a couple of days ago. And I'll show you this, my very first one. This is from this book here, In Friendship's Way by Blackbird Designs. I'm going to start off by saying right off, I can't pick a favorite designer. I have any number of ones that you'll see who I like to stitch, I guess just by the projects I show you. But I can tell you my favorite color is pink. I can't pick a favorite designer. So anyway, this is the design here as it was originally charted. It says button box and it has the buttons along the edge. I did not want to put buttons on mine, and I'm not putting it on a box, so I decided to change that up just a little bit and make it say blessed. This is a piece of fabric that I dyed with, pretty sure this was some Rit dye, to change it up and make it a little bit darker. But I'm going to explain, I guess, first off, why I have all of, you're going to see most of my projects will have this batting attached to the sides. I stitch in a Q-snap, and I don't like to attach the Q-snaps over the actual fabric or the actual stitching, so I will measure out my Q-snap and add the batting so that I can snap the batting around the Q-snap. And then that way, I've had just one issue. I stitched on ale, Picture This Plus ale, and when I had to put the clamp in the fabric, it kind of left a line. So I just prefer not to have to do that if I can. I also like to stitch mostly on 40 and 36 count, and that's just because I prefer one strand of thread. I find it easier to just maneuver. I can go any which direction I want without really worrying about how the threads are going to lie. So that's just my preferred. But I love the way two strands, and I was talking to my friend Misty from Luminous Fiber Arts. If you're not watching her, which I'm sure you are, you definitely should be. She's amazing. She's a multi-crafter, and that woman has just some amazing projects and her finishes, and she's just, she's super sweet. So anyway, hi Misty. And we were talking, she does a lot with two strands, and I was mentioning to her that I love the way two strands will sit nice and puffy on top of the fabric, and I think it looks amazing, and I love the look of that, but I just prefer the ease of one strand. So you're going to see most of these are going to be 40 and 36 count. So that's that. Let me move on. This was another one that I finished not too long ago, the LW Motif Sampler. This is beautiful. One of the reasons I was drawn to it because it does have a lot of pink in it, which like I've said, I already really love that. This was a wonderful stitch. Carol, the Salt Box Stitcher, stitched this when her daughter Lindsay was going through some cancer treatment, and it was a very scary time, and it was a wonderful time to be able to just think about her and pray for her while I was stitching this. That is one of the things that I find I really enjoy about stitching, is it's a wonderful opportunity for me to pray for. I have a lot of people on my prayer list, and I can spend a lot of time doing that. We also have a really nice website from my church, and there are the audio. I can have the Bible read to me audibly, and I pretty much do that for my daily reading. And or there's a free book site called LibriVox, and it's anything that's in like the public domain. It's it's a lot of the older ones. So I'm telling you all this because one of the other things I love to do is I love to listen to Jane Austen books audibly. Pride and Prejudice was one I listened to a couple of times this year. That's my favorite, like the BBC version. That's my favorite movie. I really do love that story. And then the one I listened to almost obsessively was like Persuasion. I think 5 times I think I listened to that this year. And so obviously I'm a big Sensibility, I'm a big Jane Austen fan. So when I was stitching this, I decided to change the letters to JA for Jane Austen. So that was just a little personalization I took. And then I put the year of her birth at the very bottom and changed that up. So I love that. This was stitched on, I think it's 40 count vintage bittersweet, and that's a Lakeside Linens. So one of the other things I recognized early on when I was able to make some trips to some actual brick and mortar stores was that it's all about fabric. I can't see fabric online. It's very hard to buy online. And so I quickly learned to spend my money when I would go to those stores on fabric. So I have been blessed to be able to have a fairly good stash of some Lakeside, which I know is incredibly hard to find right now. And I have to say that is definitely one of my favorites as well. And so I just store up on the fabrics when you can, I guess. That's the lesson. All right, this one, my next one is Anna Thies. And I saw somebody stitching this, I'm pretty sure on Instagram, and I fell in love with it, and I had a hard time finding it at first. I did end up getting this. I'm pretty sure it was from Kitten Stitcher. And then, since then, after I'd already purchased it, somebody had mentioned that it's available on this CD. So I have this complete CD now, but I hadn't had a chance to look through it all the way, and before I had purchased the pattern. It's fine. I have the pattern, and there are other things on there that I have learned now to go look for. So did I show you my stitching? I don't think I did. So here's my Anna Thies. This is on 40 count light birch. I'm pretty sure. I had heard Michelle, the Striped Rose, she mentioned that was one of her favorite fabrics, and you obviously should be watching her as well. I don't have any cats currently. I've had cats in my lifetime, but right now I don't have any cats, but I loved the cat and I loved the wreath. Some people have mentioned that wreath was a little bit challenging. I think for me, my stitching style, I don't like to stitch large blocks of just fill in grass or roof or whatever it is. I have to play games with myself to kind of keep myself motivated for that, stitch 3 strands or I'll stitch a strand and stitch something else and move back. I think I like a little bit of confetti stitching, not super heavy confetti, but enough that I stay interested. And I will start all over the place. I don't always have a rhyme or reason. I kind of like to start with the fun stuff first. And I think if I'm starting with something that's not so much fun, I will stitch my way to the fun stuff so that I can go ahead and start stitching on that. And I stay more motivated that way. I think the other thing is I tend to stitch on one project for about 3 days. And that seems to be my max. I don't have any rotation. I stitch on what I want, when I want. I only stitch for me, just my pleasure. So I can move around just to find interesting bits, different colors. If I get tired, if I don't feel a color at that time, like some of the autumn colors, and I'm just really craving something more cheery, then I will just pick a different project. So let me go ahead and move on to the next one. This is a little bit about how I like to stitch. So this one is also in that CD. I did not know that. I think I originally saw this as the Checkerboard Stag Sampler. And I originally saw this, I'm pretty sure it was Julie McConnell, Reflections, Framing, and Stitching, showed this on her channel. And then Leslie, Fat Cat Flossing, hi Leslie, you should be watching her as well, as I'm sure you all are. I think she showed it then, next. And then I was able to go to visit the attic in Mesa, Arizona. I have a friend, Samantha, Crafting Between Stitches. Hi, Samantha. And we have become really good friends. And she was going to be going to Phoenix for work. And I thought, oh, that would be so awesome. We talked about trying to meet up. So she flew there for work, and she never ended up being able to get done with her day in order for us to meet at the attic like we originally were supposed to. But I met her for coffee and dinner, and we had a great time, and it was really nice to just spend the time that we did have. But I went to the attic by myself, not a problem. And the store is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. I walked around the store several times. I think there were times where I just literally just sat in front of whatever it was and just looked at it. And they had the Queen of the May at that time, the Hands Across the Samplers. It was that really, really large one with the tree in the middle, and it was ginormous, just ginormous. And so I just sat there and looked at it for the longest time. Anyway, so I saw this on the wall there as well and fell in love with it and thought, oh yeah, I have to get that. And I don't stitch with silks a lot, not that I don't like it, but I did splurge on the silks. This is Gumnut Stars, I believe it is. And I really, really obviously love stitching with the silk. And look how shiny. I mean, just look at how shiny that is and so pretty. The thing about this chart is some of these areas, like the stitches in there, they're not just straight cross stitches. They're just satin stitches. They're just straight stitches. But I have had a very difficult time with those sections of this chart. Just my brain, I just can't quite figure figure it out. So that's what's left to do on this, is a couple more motifs, but still a couple more leaves and things. And I worked on it for a bit, and then I was just like, oh, I just need a straight cross stitch. So I love this, and I will finish it, but it hasn't called to me yet. Again, in a bit. Okay, so this next one was, and so the attic, let me finish my story there. The attic, I met Carolyn, Stash Sisters. She's just beautiful and amazing. I absolutely loved her. And I got to meet Jean as well. Now, Jean, I didn't know, but Jean is a retired court reporter, which is what I actually did as well. And I've been so blessed to be able to retire. It was a year ago, April. So from 84 to 2019, I was working as a court reporter, and so I just met her briefly, and I think she was working on the newsletter at the time, but it was very sweet of her to take the time to say hi to me. So I had a great visit there. I met some wonderful women. They had a stitch in the Thursday night, and I met some lovely ladies, and we had I think this was October. I can't be 100% sure, but I think it was October, obviously last year, and it was wonderful, and I would go back there again if I could. Well, when I can, let's put it that way. At some point I will get back there. Okay, so this next one is a Plum Street. I stitch a lot of Plum Street. That is one of my favorites. I do love everything she does. I'm trying to get out of package here. I guess I'm leaving it in. So this one I saw on Instagram. My friend Debbie, hi Debbie, was stitching this, or had stitched it and showed her finish. And I said, oh, that's just beautiful. I hadn't seen that before. Well done, I love it. And she said, would you like me to send it to you? And I said, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. So I think I sent her something. She sent me this, and we've become friends, and we've Zoomed, and again, like I said, it's just been a lot of fun getting to meet people. So this is how far I got. I did not finish it this year in time to put it up on the wall, but I will finish it next year. I think Debbie was smarter than I am, and she did darker snowflakes, so she didn't have to do all the backstitching. So I think there's a lot more backstitching there if I'm going to highlight some of those snowflakes, but where I guess they're not snowflakes. I guess it's a Quaker motif, but to me, I always think snowflake when I see it. So that's another thing. Okay, so I have noticed that my stitching style in the way of what I like to stitch on seems to be seasonal, and I like to be ahead of the season. I've learned to start early so that I have time to stitch it and hopefully fully finish it, which usually just means stick it in a frame. I don't really like the finishing process very much. It seems like every time I sit down at my sewing machine, I end up in a full sweat. I gotta have the fan going, and I'm not doing anything ridiculously hard. But I wish I liked to sew. Let's put it that way. I wish I liked to sew, but I don't think I really do. So, okay, so that's that one. Then let's see, my next one here, it happens to be another Plum Street. And I saw somebody stitch this. They had fully finished it, and they showed it on Instagram. And I'm sorry, I think I saw this on Flosstube. I don't remember who it was. But I saw this, they showed it up as a completed project, and I just fell in love. I think I had to go put it on the wait list. I don't think it was in stock at the time, and I said, yes, notify me when it's in. And I basically hit all the buttons. Just kit it up. I need the fabric. I need all the threads, because I just want it stitched just like that. So this is on 36 count Picture This Plus Ale. And I did make some good progress before I put it away to do some fall stitching. And this will come out here pretty quick, because I don't know, I'd like to finish it by this year. It'll depend. I do have a lot of Christmas lists, Christmas projects on the list. It was kind of like my patriotic stitching. I had this huge, I thought I'll get all my charts together so I can make my patriotic chart list. I didn't get through them all, let's put it that way. Apparently I have a lot of patriotic charts. I did do, if you are on Instagram, I am kgoldman63 on Instagram, and I tend to take like short little video clips of what has now become a thing where I put all of my cross stitching for that season on the wall. And yes, with nails, there's a lot of nail holes in my wall. And then when I took everything down from the patriotic wall, I did a summer wall, and of course nothing went in the same place, so there were more nail holes in the wall. And my husband doesn't care. If I have to patch the wall, I'm the one that'll patch it and repaint it, so he doesn't care. And it was kind of funny because I had so much on the wall for both patriotic and then summer, and here comes fall, and I put all my fall stuff out. But I have like a couple of hutches and a buffet and a shelf, and my fall stitching pretty much fit on all those areas, and I ended up thinking I don't really have a lot to put on the wall. And so I didn't replace when I took everything down. We both just kind of stood back and went, whoa, that's like a lot of blank wall space. Kind of freaked us out. And I do love, I know Susie Reno showed recently where she has the shelves, the 3 very shallow shelves, and it's a wonderful way to be able to move your stitching around without having to continually put the nail holes. I actually do have 2 of those shelves that I had put up years ago for our trip pictures. When we go celebrate our anniversary, we try to go to national parks. I've only been married 4 years, so we've been to a couple, but that's our thing. We try to like go to the national parks for our trips, and we take a bunch of pictures, and then I will mostly take down, some of them I just leave out, but I'll take down the previous trip pictures and replace them with the current trip pictures, and then that way those all can just get moved around on the shelves without any issue, and I do like that. So who knows, maybe I'll put up more shelves in the future, but he doesn't care if I put them on the wall, and so that's what I've done so far. So this next one, moving right along, is Hands Across the Sea, Mary Clayton. So Hands Across the Sea, oh my gosh, so many beautiful charts that they have. And the next thing about me, I guess I will share through confessions, is I don't like stitching a lot of repetitive like borders. Some of the borders are just, it's just not my most favorite thing ever. So I am kind of notorious, I suppose I can label myself that, but I will stitch the center motif of something. I'm kind of looking because I don't think you can see it in the video, but I stitched Ann Thomas, and I just stitched the pigeon in the middle, which we've dubbed Walter. I just stitched him and the flowers and the area around him like that. And I knew that I would have a finish if I did that, and I might not have a finish if I had to stitch the whole border, which is gorgeous and one of my most favorite charts. And if I were going to stitch one, that would have been the one. I also stitched Eliza Bell Cox, and I'm looking right at it, but I just stitched the parrot. I didn't stitch all the beautiful flowers on the outside. So yeah, I tend to do that. This one is not a terribly repetitive huge border. It's a smaller size, and so I said, you know what, just put on your big girl panties and stitch that border. I did change one of the, this is just DMC, and I did change one of the colors because it just didn't show up at all. I think it was this one. I don't have that information right in front of me. I don't want to take the time to kind of look through the chart, but that, I think that was the only thing on this that I had to change. And it was the color of the tights as well. So that it just wasn't going to show up on this fabric. And this fabric is, I think this is, hold on here, I have a list. Excuse me while okay, so Mary Clayton, I stitch on 40 count vintage light exemplar. I don't think I mentioned Liberty Inn was 35 count Confederate gray, and that's just 1/2. I haven't stitched anything that I've showed you 2/2 yet. And I think I'm all caught up. Okay. So that's Mary Clayton. I love that one. When I was at the attic, I saw Sally Stansfield. I'm pretty sure that's the one there. And they had that on display with all of the, I don't know if it was a Versois or whichever ones they had with the, on the spool. Beautiful. It's quite a display. And I almost bought that one there, but for whatever reason, trust me, I bought a lot of other things, but that just wasn't one of the ones I got. So that might be a future one to go next to Mary Clayton because they're kind of a comparable size. But Hands Across the Sea just keeps putting out so many, all those little gems, and that latest one with the pink B-scap, and a B-scap. So I don't know. We'll see. All right, so this next, let me show you the chart real quick. You haven't seen it. Another Blackbird. This is, I don't want to show you that's my working copy. So that's pretty much how I stitch. I think I mentioned I stitch in a Q-snap, but I also stitch on my Lowry. I learned to two-hand stitch, which it wasn't that complicated, but I taught myself how to do that. And it was funny because they said you normally put your dominant hand on the top, but I find that I have more control on the bottom where I can't see it. I don't need to see it as much to be able to know. So I end up with my dominant hand on the bottom, and I love my Lowry, and I love being able to do the two-handed stitching. I have tried stitching in hand. I don't prefer it, and with me stitching on the 40 and the 36 count, I need my magnifier. I have one of the lights that has the magnifier and the light in it that comes over the side. I think it's a Brightech. I got it on Amazon a little bit ago. It doesn't have the wheels. It's pretty heavy, but I need that. And then if I'm stitching on, like say 40 count ale, which is darker, I tend to need my glasses and my light sometimes. But that just works out really well for me. So that's the way I stitch most of the time. So then this one, Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs. Again, it's got a lot of pink. I'm not stitching this on, I think this calls for legacy. I don't know. This one I didn't start for a long time because I really had difficulty trying to decide on fabric. I even asked Brenda from Brenda and Laura and Serial Starter, and she was so sweet. She's always like one of the first commenters when I put anything on Instagram. Thank you, Brenda. You're very, very, very kind. And I had asked her like fabric consult. I hope that's not setting a bad precedent. Don't everybody consult Brenda for fabrics. But she very kindly gave me a suggestion, and I actually didn't use her suggestion. I probably should not be telling you this story, but I don't know how to edit, so let's just move on. So I'm stitching this on 40 count vintage maple sugar and by Lakeside, and that's my little start. I absolutely love this one, and I think one of the challenges I have is if something's not a seasonal stitch, I think I have a harder time making time for it because I'm very, trying to get the seasonal stitches done, and then I have some that they don't fall into that category, and I have to give myself permission to, it's like you can stitch whatever you want. There are no rules, and like I said, I stitch for me, which is another thing I probably should share. I am probably more frog over, fudge over frog. I don't really like taking stuff out, and like I said, it's just for me. So if I'm half stitch off, or actually one of the times I was even a little more than that. I think it's my vid. I'm looking at it because it's the one right up here. It's by Needlework Press. In all things, be exceedingly diligent, right? And the part I messed up on, because my fabric was wonky in the Q-snap, so I didn't realize I was in a line. I think the be exceedingly or exceed is a little bit lower than the other portion of it. And I kind of get the irony of be exceedingly diligent, and I was kind of off, and I didn't take the time to pull it out. So let's move on. This next one is a Kathy Barrick. I fell in love with this. Okay, so I saw this at Stitcher's Paradise, where I got to meet Brenda. Hi, Brenda. This is Brenda Holmesman on Instagram. She stitches amazing things, and she's so sweet. So that was really fun. I got to meet her and a couple of other ladies that were there for stitching that day. Had a great visit. My husband was there. We had to go there for work, for something for his work thing. And so he is just so wonderful about letting me go into stores when we go somewhere. If there is a store, he will do everything he can to get me to that store. And that's kind of become a thing. He said, hey, make a list of the top 5 all-time stores you would like to go to if you could. And he's tried to, if there's a national park anywhere by that store, we pretty much are going to try to do both of those things on our trips. And we actually did have one planned. We were supposed to celebrate this last anniversary by going to Sassy Jack's and then the Great Smokies, but COVID, so that didn't happen. Anyway, so this is my next one. I saw this on the wall at Stitcher's Paradise. This is Kathy Barrick, Peace on Earth. And I saw it on the wall stitched up, and I just said, oh, what's that? Do you have that? I need that. So I started this last year. Obviously didn't finish it. My margins are very tight on this, and that's because I had this piece of fabric and I really wanted it for this project, and so I just said I'm just going to make it work. I frame my things myself. I have been stitching for a while, but very on and off and on. And when I first started stitching a number of years ago, some of the projects I did were some of the very large mirabilias. I've done, I don't know, maybe 3. And I had them framed, and my style has kind of changed a lot. And obviously a lot of those are stitched over 2, and there's beads, and I don't particularly enjoy beading a whole lot. So anyway, so I have a very good friend, and I said, hey, I only have so much wall space. And I said, would you like to just hang these on your wall for, however long? And she's like, yes. And I said, okay. So they took a trip up to Fresno, and they're hanging on my best friend, Deborah. Hi, Deborah. We're hanging on her wall where she can enjoy them. And I have more wall space to be able to hang some of the things that I'm currently stitching. So, so framing. So I have learned that I think I just like to change stuff up, and I'm retired and I would like to stay retired. So I think with my resources are just better put towards supplies, you know, new stitching projects and floss and fabric and what have you. And that's just me personally. I love things that people show their professionally framed pieces, and they're just beautiful. And I'm not saying I would never do it, but I tend to do a lot of thrifting, garage sale, that kind of thing. And I just pick up frames. This one here, it's a lot of gold is my latest thing. Oh, there's one up there that you can see the gold frame. So I'll buy a frame. A lot of times they're not even picture frames. They might have had some decor piece in them, and or they were a prior professionally framed something, and I always just ripping off the back and pulling out all the staples. And for a while there, everything was kind of like silver and a lot of white frames. And then recently I kind of like, oh, that would look good in gold. So now it's all the gold spray paint. So I just spray painted everything gold. And if you saw my little video about my craft room, then you'll see what I'm talking about. So if I find a frame, I will even just put it in my stash just to have for the future. And then that way when something's done, and a lot of stuff isn't, as you know, it's not a regular size to fit perfectly in a frame. So I get a little more creative sometimes. Like this one here is just on a piece of batting, and I'll just pin it. A lot of times I just put some twine around the edge to cover the pins, and that's on like a frame with some chicken wire stapled to the back. And just, you know, watching all of you guys, you're all incredibly creative, and I've picked up a lot of things along the way. One of the first things I got back into Flosstube was because I was stitching, but I was self-taught, didn't know what I was doing, and I thought, oh, I Google it, I can Google stuff, right? So I fell down the rabbit hole, and that was where I really got back into stitching. And that's when, you know, Vonna, the Twisted Stitcher, with all of her finishing tutorials, such a generous thing for her to share all of those. Really appreciate that. I learned a lot that way. And the loop method, right? And the pin stitch, and just all about fabric and all, just everything. I didn't know anything. And so it's just been really, really fun. And then discovering what I like to stitch and how I like to stitch and experimenting different ways. So anyway, so that's my piece on Earth. Let's move on. My next one here. This was one of my favorite market releases. And I think this is the one I bought right away. There were a few, and A Quaker Welcome. And this is by Lila's Studio. I love her. I have some of her things as well. I think it's the pink that drew me, and I've started this. I was making some pretty good progress, and I'm just using the DMC on this, but I think what happened was probably, it might have been patriotic stitching that got in the way. This is on 36 Meadow Rue, and it's on a pretty big piece of fabric because I don't like to cut things off if I don't have to yet, but that's how far I've gotten. I can see why people use the whiteboards. Here, let me fold the fabric. Keeps you from not having to see behind it. But I love this, and I definitely am looking forward to getting back to it. Every time I keep thinking, you know, what I finished, or what am I going to pull out next, and I keep thinking, oh, I should pull that out, and then I did all of them. I want to stitch all of them all at the same time. And I know that I'm not alone in that. So I was going to say Lila's Studio. I'm not sure if you can see right there. The big, huge one is Susanna Lynch, but I only stitched the smaller portion, which was something Lynch. And I love that one. Very pretty, very pretty. I love her stuff. Okay, so this next one was another one. I fell in love with this. I know I saw Teresa. I'm not sure that I can remember her channel name. I think it's TLC. She hasn't done a video in a while, but she was stitching this. Any number of you have been stitching this or finished it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I loved it for a couple of years, and I kept almost, you know, and I just didn't. And then I saw it on my trip to the attic, and it was one that was on display on the wall, and I was just like, yep. So that's this one, Motif Sampler by the Scarlet House. Now, you know, as you've heard, at the attic, they're very much into the higher count fabric, and I felt I don't think you can go to the attic and walk away without buying a piece of 46 count fabric. So anyway, I did not stitch this on the vintage autumn gold. I tend that color, while it's absolutely gorgeous, it's probably not one that I lean to a lot, just the color of my walls, I think. So one of my favorite colors is Confederate Gray, and this was the new, I think this is the 46 count Confederate Gray, but I think it's the new base. So I love it on this. I love these colors. This is another one that I absolutely splurged for the silks because I just wanted it to look just like this. And it has a border, a very intricate border, but I'm making myself eat my vegetables as I go, and I think I will definitely persevere. This one just needed the border, but look at those colors. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So there's one more level, I think, on top with the big swan. And I am stitching, it is a little repetitive because you have to stitch, which is why I didn't get it right away. I think I was just like, oh, there's a lot of things in there that you might not want to take the time to do all of that. But I'm stitching up one side and then I'll come down, and by the time I get to the other, I'll have totally forgotten that I already stitched it once. That's my theory. So that's one of my favorites, and I want that finished because I want it on the wall. But I think, okay, so that's another one. Carol, the Salt Fox Stitcher, showed this recently, and she mentioned something like, yeah, I stitched this in 21 days. And she just monogamously stitched it in 21 days. I was like, okay, I'm more on the 2-year train, but anyway, she's amazing. So there you go. This was another one of my favorite market releases. I saw this right away, and this was one I didn't get it right away, and I'm pretty sure I saw Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch, and she was stitching this, and I was like, that's it. I have to get that. I have to stitch that. I just love this. Again, it's got pinks and stuff. Now I'm stitching, the only thing I didn't have was the light blue. I didn't have it was hard to get some floss at that time, and I didn't have any apple cider, which is one of the colors in the beehive. And so I just opted for DMC on those areas, and I'm perfectly happy with it. So it's fine. I would have used the fancy floss if I had it, but I didn't, and I probably was just too impatient. This is another one I did not want to put it away, but the holiday stitching called. This is another one on, I'm pretty sure it's the 40 count vintage maple sugar. And I think I said one of the reasons why I'm so, I stitch so close to the margin is because my fabric is, I just want to use every square inch of it if I can. And so because I frame myself, I don't always have to allow myself a huge margin. I do try to leave a couple of inches just in case if I want to frame it. And like I said, frames don't fit perfectly. That gives me a little bit of option. But I like to frame pretty close if I can. So I think I only have just a couple of more really quickly. And this is some of my fall stitching. I did stitch a lot of fall in August, and I think I've gotten to the point where I'm really itching to get back to more, just some other projects to finish up or some Christmas stitching. So I have a couple of projects picked out that I hope to finish, and then that I don't think I'll stitch anymore this year. But this one is a Chessie Me. Is another one I saw at Stitcher's Paradise, and I saw it on the wall, and I just fell in love. And I don't know at the time if I didn't notice there were specialty stitches, a lot of specialty stitches, and 1/1. I think I just saw it and said, and this is We Give Thee Thanks by Chessie Me. I think I just saw it and said, oh, do you have that, right? So I pulled this out to start stitching it. And this is on, so here's a saving grace. This is on 30 count Confederate gray. So 30 count, I'm just gonna do this, makes it a lot easier. It's almost just like I'm stitching on 40 count when I'm trying to do the over one. And the straights, the specialty stitches are mostly just straight satin stitches, not hard. And then the bottom grass, which isn't that cool? I think it's called the Scotch stitch. Isn't that cool? Not hard. So that actually I didn't mind at all. That was quite enjoyable. So yeah, love this, super cute, love that house, and I will finish this. Now this one I'm stitching, I think I said there's the hashtag on Instagram, and I'm sure you all know, the Great Pumpkin Sal, and this is for that, just a wonderful cause, Freedom Shield. So check out Cynthia Brew, Stitching in the Light. Hi Cynthia, another wonderful friend of mine that I've met through Instagram. So she's got details on all of that and how you can support the cause and enter for a giveaway, amazing giveaways, a lot more than one, and a lot of you have given some very generous, wonderful prizes for that. So make sure you check that out. And then the other one for my friend Becky, Socks for Mom. Hi Becky, she's wonderful as well. This is her birthday Sal. I think it's OCT Sisters B-Day Sal. I'm pretty sure that's right. There will be no thing across the bottom because I don't know how to edit, so sorry about that. But this is, oh, let me show you the chart. So this is from this book, The Sisters, Blackbird Designs, and it's actually this chart right here. So At First Cock's Crow. I am stitching this with the called for, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I didn't use onyx. I used just 310 for the black. And this is on ale, and I'm pretty sure this is the 40 count ale. It's just a piece I had left over. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just do this to see if that helps. But that's just my small start on that. I I don't think there's anything else to really say about this, but I love Ale is one of those fabrics. I really love that color. Obviously, I love Confederate Gray and the Lakeside, the Vintage Maple Sugar, and the Light Exemplar and Exemplar. And I really love a lot of those colors. And so I try to use, like I said, I try to save every little scrap. And that's just a scrap. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So that's just a scrap. I didn't have a large enough piece. And I'm actually not going to stitch. I'm more, I stitch fall, but not Halloween. I know, sorry, so many of you guys that love Halloween. But so I won't be stitching this top portion, and not just because it's not like that's just necessarily Halloween, but the bottom portion is fine, and I think it'll make a cute little pillow, and so that's the part I'm going to stitch. And then my last one, this is the one I just had on my Q-snaps the last couple of days. I just started it a few days ago, or a couple of days ago, I should say, so it's probably only going to get one more day before it gets put away. But this is Merry Christmas by Blackbird Designs. A lot of you have stitched this. I think, so my friend Cynthia on Instagram, hi Cynthia, actually, I'm sorry, it's actually Cindy. She's stitching it on, or she mentioned she had stitched it. So you can check out her Instagram, and let's see, Celeste from Celeste Creates was stitching this, and I think this was also Elizabeth Ann had stitched this. So I'd seen quite a few people stitching it, and I think I saw it on Instagram. I don't know. It's just beautiful colors. I loved it, loved it, loved it. Now this one is actively a mess because, like I said, now this is not am stitching. I'm stitching it over 2. This 32 count Vintage Light Exemplar, and I'm stitching with 2 strands over 2. So I have a lot of needles going because I try to keep my holes. I try to pull the floss in a way as I'm stitching that I'm not blocking the hole, so that as the next thread has to come up, it's not. That's probably making absolutely no sense. But anyway, I really think this is beautiful, and I love it. So that's all. That's enough. That's enough about that. So I think those are all of the things that I have to share with you for my the WIPs, everything I'm actively stitching. There are a few others, but that's probably good enough to get started. I hope that you saw something that, like I said, maybe enabled you. Maybe you'll stitch it along with me. Just add to your stash. It's just fun. It's all just fun. And you know, my husband will listen to me talk about stitching, and he even uses all the lingo. You know, what are you stitching? What are your WIPs? Did you have to frog? He's so cute, and he's really gracious about listening to me talk about it. But you know, he's not a stitcher, and as you all know, that's one of the fun things about being able to do Flosstube or Instagram, is just to be able to share with other stitchers. So I had a few fun things about me, but I think I'm just going to save some of that for next time. And there is one thing I did want to share with you, and I think it's the most important thing about me, and so I want to make sure to share it. It's just that I am a woman of faith. That means for me, I am a born-again Christian, follower of Jesus Christ. He is my Lord and Savior, and I have been saved by grace. And I am incredibly thankful to just for God and the love that He has, that He did that for me, that Jesus came and died for me. And I'm blessed, and I am excited that I have been able to do this. It's been fun, a little terrifying, but a lot of fun. I hope that I will be able to do it again. I hope I'll be able to upload this. This is actually my second attempt at making a video, and so let's see if that works. I just, thank you. I know this community is kind and generous and thoughtful, and I thank you in advance for kind and encouraging comments. And I do hope to make another video, so we'll see how that goes. And I don't know when, how long it'll take me to actually have something to show you. But so anyway, let me just leave you with that and say God bless.